Well, hello traders and investors. I'm Ellie Little and this is your daily NeoTA wrap where we take a look at these markets, and we're doing it from a neoclassical perspective. It means we're looking at supply and demand on the charts and using that to make decisions about what we do and don't invest in terms of our portfolio. At TA Today, we do portfolio management. We educate how to trade neoclassically, how to manage a portfolio so that you can consistently profit over time. If you're interested in that sort of thing, you ought to really think about what we do here. Join the community. Take a look at our performance. Take a look at what we do, how we carry lower beta and still perform as well or better than the markets. As with respect to the markets, let's see what they did today. They were up 0.21 on the NASDAQ NDX. We had the bonds up a good percentage, 1.36%. Gold up again. Gold is really trying to turn that trend. Russell still lagging red on the day. Elsewhere you had small gains. If we look at the charts, what we're going to see there is the S&P still holding up at that higher range. 4 days now. Friday was the push up, the gap up. You're still holding that area, not willing to give it up. Each time they try to sell it down to this little spot, they buy it right back. So you had a gap down 4 days down there. You had a gap up 3 days. So 3, 4, 4 is tomorrow the magic number. As far as the way this is acting, swing point high still wants to try to get over it. That's what we're still looking at, and that's what we're going to see probably. I would think sometime this week, either Thursday or Friday. You got a little tight range here, folks. It's going to break it one way or the other. If you break over the top, you can get the expansion, and you can make that run up to that 2330 area, 2320 areas where it wants to try and get. NASDAQ continues to push. New highs again today on a closing basis. 5682 is the number, still looking good. NDX continues to drive right along with it with a new close at the highs. And the Russell, as we said on the top of the show, unable to get it going. It did get under back over yesterday, but it had more volume, and it's still in this range. I mean, this is a huge range. Now, you have to remember the Russell made a huge run compared to everything else. And right now, it's still doing this retest regen off this bullish move. I would like to see this thing start to perk up pretty soon. Eventually this has to break up or down. And with the rest of the indexes just, grinding higher, you want to see that rotation come back in. You want to see these markets move. And the way that's going to happen probably is a big rotation back into something like small caps, or potentially a rotation into some of the heavily weighted sectors like XLY, which got a nice pop today. XLV, not as heavily weighted, but still weighted pretty good. Had a test of the top, failed. Does a little reversal today, going to go back and try it again. I noticed that the XLP was breaking out today. Not as big a weighting, but a continued push up. And if we look at it on a weekly basis, right, this is kind of put in a bottom, did the test down here. This was your test. And essentially, you're always looking for a high volume, wide price spread bar. Those are anchor bars. This was that type of bar. You get under it, you can't find new sellers. If you're not going to find new sellers, it's going to go the other way. I mean, 90% of the time, that's what you're going to see. I shouldn't say 90, but it's a high number. And when you do, right, you try to set up an ABCD structure. That's what this did. Just got its pop on that swing point high. Now back into this big breakdown bar. If you get more than a third of the way, guess what? You're going to try to make it to the top. And so the XLP, the staples, not looking too bad here. They're right at a decision point. Of course, the one that's driving it is the one that's driving the indexes. That's the XLK, just grinding higher again. Another little hammer push to the top side. The one that was weighted today was the financials. You had it in the XLF, you had it in the KRE, the KBE. All of the financials got hit pretty good right off the bat this morning. And then they simply held. The buyers just creep back in. Elsewhere in the tech sector, the SOX continues to grind higher, and it's hard to find anything wrong with this action. If we move over to the OX markets, I want to highlight gold again. I've been watching gold now for a while. Gold just continues to climb. It's climbing up into the top of this bar. That number is 119.69. That's where it wants to go. Just finished off a little ABCD structure, but gold has a tendency to actually do more than one-to-ones, and that's what this one's doing, is stretching a little bit higher. You got a large structure in effect back here, and that one also looks to me like it is done, and so gold now is just climbing on momentum. Elsewhere, while we're here, let's look at silver. And silver, sort of the same thing, a little over under today, same volume though, so I don't know that that's a tell. If we look over to the dollar has been trying to push higher. FXE, that one actually looks like it's going to try to push back down. Let's pull over and look at the dollar, and let's see what the dollar looks like. Yeah, nice little reversal. So the dollar may get a little ABCD structure going here, and that would take it back up to, looks like about 26.20, which is kind of the key mark. That's this bar's top, and 2026 it looks like. So the dollar could get a little bit more of a pop. While we're here, let's just look at a few other things since it's kind of a slow day. Copper, nothing special, consolidating. Let's see what the bonds look like. And bonds getting a nice pop finally. And let's see what they look like on the weekly. So they're back into this bar. If you do a third of the way on this bar, it's going to be pretty deep actually, probably about right there. So got some work to do to get this one back up. But if you actually get this little push over the structure here, that would take it up into that area. So that ABCD structure. So bonds, so what does all that say? Well, XLP breaks out. Bonds pushing up. The dollar, you got a little bit of a boost going. You get into pullback in some of the other stuff. This is kind of rotation, but it's rotation to safety. Is that what the Russell's telling us? I'm not sure, and I'm not that worried about it because I think everything still looks fine. But it does look like a little risk off, but I don't want to leave the market type action. Tomorrow, Thursday, we'll see what she wants to do then. As for today, bias is still upside. Bias is still a grind to the top. And in general, that's the way it still looks. See you tomorrow. Good night.